It's the all-wheel drive event at Lithia Ford of Boise. From hunting trips to ski trips to trips to Grandma's house. Nobody does AWD like LFB, Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Eat Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the flaming hot grilled cheese burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circus Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
Well, what's up, everybody? Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, January 27th. And I have to laugh because I think like this is the 3rd or 4th time where it's looked as though it will just be a regular day of action. And then just like that, it becomes another night in the Mountain West. And I just get a chuckle out of it because it never disappoints, right? Like this had the shapings up of a regular night, only 3 games, 2 blowouts, couple, team just completely no shows. And then all of a sudden you get a last 4 minutes and a comeback that you see, once every, a couple times a year across the country because there's thousands of games, but within your conference, you don't see that very often. So, all right, let's catch our breath here. I'm Tom Moser. Thanks for being here. Let me thank Sun Cruiser first, along as a title sponsor. Been a long few days here. I was not feeling well on Saturday, got through the show with the help of Matt Cox, my buddy. Bryce Drew was along. I'm sure he'd like to be along now. It's been a long few days here, but the hoops was a welcome relief to watch tonight. Let's kind of dig into the one that it wasn't supposed to be the late game. It was the middle game. It ended up being the late game for a combination of reasons. It went overtime, and then the late game had a team just completely not decide to play. And so as a result, the middle game ended up as a late game, which doesn't happen very often. But we will go with the one that most of you guys are here to talk about. And that, of course, is what just took place in Lawler. So, it's wild how one play can completely change the narrative for a team and for two teams, but for a conference and for everything else. They being Grand Canyon, they were one play. It's kind of like Boise against San Diego State. A confluence of events had to happen at the end of that second overtime, or I guess maybe it was the end of the first overtime for Boise to lose that game, right? And the same thing here with the end of regulation for Grand Canyon. Henley's an 80% free throw shooter. Nevada has a horrible possession. Alford for years has been a master at drawing stuff up out of timeouts in late game scenarios to get twos, threes, whatever he wants, open looks. Doesn't mean he always make them, but he gets what he wants. He gets very good looks, okay? They did not get that on the last play with about 12, 15, whatever it was, 10 seconds left. He gets a three from a freshman, White, and it was like, forget about guarded. It was basically like he was almost hugging him, right? And it wasn't even close. And then you foul an 80% free throw shooter for a double bonus. It wasn't a 1-and-1. It was a double bonus. So the odds of Henley missing both are probably longer than the odds of Heidi making both last weekend when Bouillon fouled him at 80 feet from the basket. Okay. And everyone's like, well, he's a 40% free throw shooter. He's not going to make both. Hell, he's an 80% free throw shooter. All he's got to do is make one. Okay. So long odds. And then Grand Canyon, they had a foul to give. I would have just let it play out. Like Nevada had nothing going because the foul took place, with like 1.3 or 1.7. They would have had to hoist one up on the run from 35 feet and bank it in. But they call timeout. So good job. They commit the foul. And then, again, no timeout. So they're scrambling. Now, here's where I always get myself in trouble because I'm going to tell you that Amy Bonner should not have called that foul. Okay. Now, yes, on the replay that you all watched and that I watched, did Makai Williams' hand make contact with TR's hand? It did. Okay. And I'm just going to say that Williams and Drew and whoever, their surprise is not necessarily with the fact that he fouled him, which he should. Idiotic play, a boneheaded to the max play by Williams. Okay, but it's never called in that situation. Okay, with 1.3 on a dead ball, side out, fading away from 35 feet. That is never called unless you completely bowl the guy over, okay? Bonner has a tendency to make calls at times that other officials wouldn't, okay? Now, I get it. Some of you are going to say he hit him, it's a foul, blah, 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 right? I'm not rooting for anybody, in fact, okay? I promise you, I'm not. And I just want to add this, that when that call took place last Wednesday and that drew such dialogue for obvious reasons in Phoenix, okay, I probably listened to and or watched, being bedridden for 3 days over the weekend, 5 or 6 different sets of media people on podcasts or YouTube shows or whatever, and to a man, it was basically unanimous that San Diego State got screwed, okay? Now, I'm not defending San Diego State. I'm not criticizing Grand Canyon. I'm not saying anything about the call. What I'm saying is it's not a call that gets made in that situation. And people around the game, not fans of teams, but people around the game that watch the sport every night, not just their team, people around the sport that watch it and love it, understand that you don't call it in that situation. Contact or not, foul or not. And yes, some of you are going to sit there till you're blue in the face and say, if it's a foul with 15 minutes left, it's a foul with a second left, okay? And you can still believe that, okay? But that is not the conventional wisdom of the people who matter in the sport. And I'm not saying the media people matter more than you as fans. I'm saying that the officials, okay? Now, Bonner called it the same as Heinies did it. Heinies took a shellacking in the media for calling that, okay? And Bonner will too. That's not a call you make. It's just not, okay? So the same people that said that San Diego State got screwed last week will say that Grand Canyon got screwed last night, okay? Because you just don't call that there. So maybe it was karma. And who loses in this is San Diego State, and who makes out in this is Nevada. Now, that aside, okay, because I have to discuss that. That aside, incredible composure by TR making all 3 free throws. That is not easy to do under any circumstances, let alone with 8/10 of a second left. And literally you have to make all 3 or you lose. Okay. That is very, very difficult. The place is silent. All eyes are on you. The game is on the line. The first one took every bit of the rim to get down, and then the second 2 were smooth. All right. But that's very difficult to do. Before that, I mean, I was ready to come in here and just say, like, look, I told you guys last weekend that I thought Grand Canyon was a team to watch. Okay. First, let's talk about this because this wasn't even discussed yet. They were short 2 guys, 2 starters tonight. Okay. Shaw, who has played very well lately. I mean, not lately, but most of the season in taking what was supposed to be Stromer's role and done pretty well at it. And Moore, who's played exceptionally well in this 3-game surge that they had, beating San Diego State, Utah State, and at Fresno. So you're down 2 starters. Okay. Now he has 2 capable replacements in theory. Stromer hasn't been great. He was okay tonight. And Williams. But where it matters then is with your depth, especially if you have to go to overtime. And you saw Stromer fumble a wide open catch in overtime. He would have had a 3 to tie the game. He fumbled it, turnover. He's tired. Okay. He had to go to a couple other guys for minutes that maybe he didn't want to, or guys like Henley, as I didn't really need to do it, but because there's so much to talk about, but I'll put it up here for a minute. How many minutes did Henley play? He played, Stromer and Henley both played 44. Makai Williams played 43. Demeril played 37. And Owusu Anane played 39 in a 45-minute game. So your 5 starters, the lowest that they got was 37 minutes. Okay? Talk about an iron 5. He didn't like Dennis Evans for whatever reason, maybe because Nevada has no height and it didn't really matter. Evans 8 minutes, Breidenbach 6, and then the backup point guard Boisdor, the Frenchman, Lafrancois, he 4 minutes, he was in nothing, so he didn't get any run. Contrast that with Nevada. Camper got 38 minutes and nobody else was over 29. So clearly, maybe Henley's a little tired on those free throws. Can't blame the guy. He played 44 out of 45 minutes. He probably went out once for 30, I don't even remember, for 30 seconds. The same thing with Stromer. Okay, he's not used to playing those minutes. He's probably playing 15 minutes a game. Williams 43 minutes. Now he's in good shape, but I mean, mental lapse there. Why are you trying to foul the TR on a fadeaway? Like, you just go near him, yell at him, scream, like fake jab at him. Don't try to swat. I mean, it shouldn't be called, but if you don't swat, it's not called, right? So mental lapse there. Maybe he's tired. I don't know. But point being, shorthanded, okay, that team came on the road, and I don't want to say dominated the game, but they controlled the game. I don't remember Nevada getting, and I'll get to the comments here in a minute. Okay. I could probably count on one hand the amount of open looks I saw Nevada get in the game. Okay. One of them was the Camper 3 that he hit when they were down 9, I think, with about 4.5 to go. That was huge. There was a timeout. I think Nevada called it with like 5 to go after GCU made a bucket and it was going to get to a 3-point play to go up 8 or 9. And the Nevada bench, you could see from the angle that they had the camera on, they were just completely dejected. All right, completely dejected. And the air in the arena was sucked out. The place was dead. Like I didn't see the fans, but I imagine many of them were headed out or waiting for the under 4 to head out. That it was not looking promising. And I don't like ESPN and all their newfangled like analytics nonsense, because I think that's just for like show and marketing and it's whatever. But I'd like to see the win probability at some point in this game for Grand Canyon for much of the last 5 minutes, because it was, I'm sure, 99%, because they had the game under control. But you got to give Nevada credit. They made a couple shots and GCU missed just enough free throws. Obviously Henley's 2, they missed 1 here. Nevada made a shot there. And then, turnover here, Nevada cranked it up a little bit and they extended the game. Alford did a good job using his timeouts. They extended the game. And then of course set the stage for the last 15 seconds. Now, in overtime, again, it's just one of those things where the emotion, it's just one team gets lifted and one team's just completely deflated by what just took place, right? Like you feel terrible if you're Williams, you feel terrible if you're Henley. You're also exhausted. So mentally, as I said a minute ago, you tend to lose a bit of focus. If you're in the other huddle with Nevada, you feel rejuvenated. You feel like you can go beat I don't know who's the best. I don't pay attention to the NBA, but you feel like you could go beat the Celtics or whoever's good in the NBA because you got all this adrenaline and you're fired up. And that the crowd was into it then. And the game never really got away from GCU until the last 30, 40 seconds with fouling, but it just felt like they were going through the motions waiting for the game to be over. So credit Nevada in overtime, credit Nevada for hanging around. They did not look good offensively, okay? Even without Moore and Shaw, who are good defenders too, all right? Stromer, not the defender that Shaw is. Williams, maybe equal to Moore. I don't really know what the consensus is there, but they're shorthanded, and their defense, GCU's, was the best unit on the floor, 100%. Okay, 100%. Just one last quick glance at the stats. Nevada shoots 33%, 21 for 64. Wow. 7 for 17 from three. You'll take that, 41%. And Casey Jacobson, who does a very good job on the call, he points it out. Ramey, too, as a Nevada guy, knows what he's talking about. But Nevada doesn't shoot it a ton, but they shoot it at a good percentage. What that means is they take good ones. They don't take bad ones, which is good. So they don't have guys taking threes that shouldn't be taking threes. That's always a good thing, because guys taking threes that shouldn't take threes is a turnover in my book, okay? GCU, 4 for 23, not good enough. So you want to look at something outside of the whole last-minute nonsense. 4 for 23 is not good enough. Now, who was culpable there? Henley, 2 for 8. Owusu Anani, 1 for 6. He shouldn't be taking 6 threes. Mekhi Williams, 1 for 5. I don't mind that. I think he's a good shooter. He didn't make enough tonight, obviously. And that's basically the extent of that. Stromer, 0 for 3. That's what he's out there for. He did contribute 4 rebounds and 3 assists. How about Henley? 16 points, 13 rebounds. Demerol, 14 points, 10 rebounds. He was a beast early on in the game. Nevada's boards were pretty distributed evenly. Camper, 3 for 13, not super. He did have 6 boards and 5 assists. Bailey was pretty solid. I'll give it to Bailey. He's been in and out and inconsistent. He had 18 points and 7 for 10 shooting and 4 boards. You'll take that every night from Bailey. TR, obviously, talked about him with the 3 free throws. He only shot 1 for 7, but he had 11 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 0 turnovers in 23 minutes. So you'll take that from TR. So, I mean, look, the only 9 turnovers for Nevada. As good as GCU's defense was, they didn't force turnovers. I mean, Nevada took 6 more shots. The rebounding, even 43-42, incredible. Bench points, 41-2. I mean, again, that's not surprising when you're missing 2 starters. Point paints go to GCU. So look, the defense travels with GCU, and it's really impressive. This one's going to sting, and at some point, like the emotional bubble is going to burst for them, okay? I keep, like, saying it, and I expected it tonight, frankly. I did. I expected it tonight, and it didn't happen. You can't sustain it for this long. I think Matt and I talked about this on Saturday night, right? Frankly, I was slightly surprised, not massively, but slightly, that they got away with or showed up well at Fresno on Saturday. And I thought that tonight was a prime spot for them to kind of just be flat. And it wasn't. They showed up. Big test Friday now at home, short turnaround against Boise. Now, Boise has been feasting on the lower half, but they've been playing better basketball. Okay, I'll talk about them in 20 minutes, but they've been playing better basketball. And if GCU's half asleep, it's basically the reverse of what we saw when these two teams played a month ago. Boise was coming off the deflating loss against San Diego State. Home game, no crowd. We all know about that story. And they don't show up to play. GCU comes in ready to go, fired up, take it to them, dominate the game. Now, we know the fans will be there for GCU. They like a party. They like a Friday night game. They'll be ready to go. I don't know if it's on FS1 or CBS Sports, but it'll be on TV. They'll be fired up, so the crowd won't be a problem. How will GCU's energy level be? That will tell you what we have in this team here. I wouldn't probably expect more in Shaw back. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe more, because he was questionable and then went to out. I think Shaw was probably always going to be out. So we'll see. But I'm interested in how the Lopes react. This is a tough one to swallow, especially when you go. I don't know how Drew will handle it. When you go back and watch it on film, you don't expect to lose a game like this, like ever, right? Like certainly not often at all. Maybe once as a coach every 5 years, and that's stretching it. Okay. So that's a tough one. We're going to have to see how they respond. For Nevada, huge, because you lose this game and you're like, I was prepared to say they're like they say over in England, like you're like the nearly man, right? You nearly get it done, but you just don't. They would have had losses to the top 4 teams and beaten all the teams below them. And what does that get you, right? That and, $50 gets you a gas full of a tank full of gas, right? So, I mean, but they did get it done. So credit to them, and they will have their shots at the other teams. The Lobos at home, the Aggies at home. You do have to go to Viejas, so there'll be an underdog there. But this will at least settle them down with the confidence that they can get over the line. Still got to improve stuff in the half court. Okay, now they played the best two of the 3 best defenses in the last 4 days in GCU and New Mexico, and throw San Diego State in there. And I didn't look ahead yet to see what Nevada has this weekend. To be honest, I'll have to look, but they got to clean things up because what did it go to overtime at 53? So if Bonner doesn't call that, they end the game with 50 points, and they weren't really close to getting more than that. I don't even know how they got to 50. I tweeted out 5 minutes into the game that there were going to be problems all night for Nevada in the half court. And good teams, GCU, they're not going to let you run against them and supplement your offense with fast break points. They're just not. Okay. Let me get to some of these here. A lot of Lobo fans, as per usual. Yeah. We'll talk about UNLV in a second here. I just want to see if there's anything on the Nevada game before. Yeah. Can't turn the Nevada game off once they missed a 3. Can't believe they came back and won. You should know by now that it can happen at any point. And it's just another night in the Mountain West. What a game. Lobos are legit too. Yeah, what a game for sure. We'll get to the Lobos in 1 second. Haven't been able to catch my breath. Chris. Yeah, I said it. Yeah. Asthma. I mean, ridiculous. Paul, conference has crazy games there. I mean, and yeah, that's why BJ said, how about another night in the Mountain West? Absolutely. Lopes meltdown. Yeah, I'm going to have to kind of go through the play-by-play and watch again to see like what they could have done differently. When there's so many things that happen, I lose track of it because I have so many thoughts already built into my head. Obviously, the free throws count and the foul, but I'm trying to think of what happened from the 2-minute mark down to that Henley missed free throw that I could say where they gave it away. I like to give Nevada credit in there. Yeah, no doubt. Nobody thought that they were getting away with a win there. I don't blame anybody for turning it off other than the fact that you're you know what you're getting into when you do that on a Mountain West game. The foul and the 3 going left, terrible. Yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. Yeah, exactly. Josh and Brenly, don't go near him, right? Like I said, scream at him, jab at him, put yourself in a position where you can like yell at him from, I don't know, but that then we've talked about this before. As a road team, you're putting it in the officials' hands, and they made a call that they're allowed to make. Okay. Yeah. Amy's not the best ref. It's funny. I actually thought she had gotten better this year at not inserting herself into games, because I think that was her issue last year. I think like because she's a female official, and I'm not saying she's bad, okay? But as a female official, I feel like she thinks she has to prove she belongs. So she calls things to show that she knows the rules and knows how to call things at times. And it gets her into trouble because that's part of the game flow that I talk about, right? You don't make every call you see as an official. You don't. Otherwise, every game would be like a UNLV game aside from tonight and when they show up to play, and they take 3 hours because there's 150 fouls, right? You don't call everything, right? When the fouls are 6-1 at the under 16 and the coach is barking at you, you don't call the next foul on a drive, even if the guy shoves his hip, because you've already called 6, right? If it's 6-1 the other way and the guy nudges them slightly, you probably call it. And I don't think Amy gets that yet. And that's part of what would happen here at a much bigger scale. But that's kind of the stuff that I talk about. Thank you, Blue. Yeah, you don't call that. GCU got some ref medicine. They did. And I think any fan, if they start to point that out, will get that thrown back in their face real quickly. So I would hope that they can accept that. Are there any consequences for those? Yeah. Look, there are, in the fact that they'll get a game taken from them, or not taken from them. They will get assigned a lesser conference. Now, here's the thing, though, and I talked about this last week after the GCU San Diego State game. It depends if the supervisors view it as a bad call, right? Like, we do. We think it's bad, right? That it shouldn't have been called. Same with last week's. But I don't know. Some are and some aren't. And likely they will say, you don't call that there. This is the first time you've done it this year. So, okay. And then if we see it again, then you're going to go from doing the Saturday game between Boise and Utah State to doing a Saturday game between Northern Colorado and Portland State. Okay. So it does matter a little bit to them. You can lose Jason, I explained it before. Why not call it? There's a lot of things that go into it. Yeah, exactly. GCU does have 3 losses, so if the Aztecs win tomorrow, they're 2 games ahead of the only team that beat them, correct? A lot of people about, not being a fan of Bonner. So according to ESPN, GCU was 97% with 6 seconds left. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, Bailey did. And look, that's funny because he did bank a 3 in the first half. And I think Nevada had like 5 points at the time. They got nothing going. And the fact is, sometimes you need a little bit of luck, right? And that happens. That's just the basketball gods, okay? Yeah, I think a lot of people will have this sentiment that it felt like karma for the game last week. Now Nevada has the inside track to the 4, and I believe, Craig, if I'm correct, Nevada does not go to GCU, so that is a massive edge for Nevada and a massive disadvantage for GCU in this instance. If they end up tied, Nevada will obviously get the tiebreaker for the 4. Now, what that matters again is that they get to wear the home uniform on Thursday in the 4-5 game, and GCU has to go through a scrimmage on Wednesday at whatever time that the conference puts them against Air Force, right? Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, it's all perspective, right? Like, I get it. Yeah, the no crowd. I mainly said that because that's what Leon talked about and focused on after the game. I was kidding. I didn't even really take a full inventory of what the crowd was like. So Nevada's next home game is against UNLV. Very interesting, okay? Because we're going to talk about that team in a second. Lobo trap game Saturday at San Jose. Yeah, for sure. Nevada home against UNLV. Interesting. One of the ugliest games ever in Lawler. You could say that again, but everybody will forget about it because of the craziness of the last 2 minutes. Okay. All right. I'll get back to some of these other comments in a minute. Let's get to the what in theory was supposed to be the late game. And this is just one of those where, when you look at your schedule and it comes out, you don't know who it's going to be. But when you play 30 games, you know that you're going to have like 2 or 3 that the opponent's just going to play a poor game, and all you have to do is really show up and do enough to win. And then you're going to have a couple where the opponent shows up and they play out their arse, and you got to really buck up to win if you're good enough to do it. And this was clearly one of those for New Mexico. Now, New Mexico played well. Don't confuse any of that. The 2 things can be true. I sent out a tweet like late in the first half that UNLV was awful, and I think I upset a couple Lobo fans because they took offense that I wasn't giving them credit for something, right? Like, not everything has to be about the Lobos were fine, right? They did everything right. They forced a lot of stuff. But I will also say this. This was the night. This was the night for Air Force to get their conference win, all right? Had they been in a Thomas and Mack, they would have probably won tonight. I honestly, right? Especially if Tyron Jones goes out. Now, he goes out a minute into the game. Pastner calls a timeout a minute 30 into the game. When I first started coaching, like years and years ago at the high school level, I got in with a guy who was a former college coach, very successful, smart, good coach. And he was famous for whacking timeouts like less than a minute into the game. And when I first started, I was like, what is this guy doing? Like, what are we doing? It would be like Pastor Night. It would be 4-0 a minute into the game, 45 seconds in, and he'd call timeout. And then I eventually, not every game, but anytime we'd be down 4-0, right? It happened several times a year. And I'd just start laughing at myself, right? And then later when I was coaching elsewhere and I'd watch him on TV, I'd see him do it and I'd just laugh again and our buddies would get a chuckle out of it. But here's the theory behind it is, look, like, you obviously have a game plan, okay? And you stress things in the pregame, in the walkthrough, in the scout, in the locker room, when you go over personnel, all that stuff is covered with your team, right? And so if in that first minute or 40 seconds or 80 seconds or whatever time frame it is, your guys are like blatantly not following the game plan, okay? And allowing things or doing things that you didn't want them to do and told them not to do, or not doing things you told them to do, then like there's a disconnect there, right? And if you don't call the timeout, well, it's just going to continue, and 4-0 will turn into 10-0. Okay. And so I came around to it then to be like, all right, I like that. Like Alford tonight, it was like what, 12-3 or whatever it was. And I actually thought he needed to call timeout because Nevada didn't have anything going. GCU was completely in control. Nevada looked lost on offense. And I'm thinking Alford needs a time. I know there's a TV timeout coming, so it's different in college and high school, but you got to get like some things straightened out here. Now, Alford, he solved it by going to the bench, and his bench really helped him out when some of the starters weren't really engaged in the first half. The problem for Pastner here was his guys didn't care that he called timeout. They probably like laughed or whatever. And then when Jones was out, it just completely took the wind out of their sails. I don't want to say they didn't care, but they were just lost. Any juice in the building that likely was non-existent anyway was gone, because he's like their most exciting player. And with him out, it's like, oh crap, we're screwed now. And they were screwed. Now, New Mexico played very well, but look, they played well. They didn't have a dominant first half. They didn't make 60% of their threes. If they would have done that, they would have been up 35. Like, it was ugly for points. UNLV couldn't even make a pass. Like, they looked like they had never before seen any type of offense that wasn't straight man-to-man. I don't even know what their numbers were in terms of turnovers. I want to see if I can look at it here. See if I can figure this out. So over here for the game, they only had 16. I have no idea how that is. I'm gonna see if I can do something here quickly. So bear with me. Home stats, UNLV looks like 0.847 points per possession, 72 possessions. Now, I wish you could kind of edit this without the last 5 minutes. I stopped watching the last 5 minutes. They had in the first half, look at that. They turned the ball over on 30% of their possessions in the first half. 36 possessions. They turned the ball over 11 times on 30% of their possessions. Okay. Now, a couple of those were steals, but a lot of that it was just non-existent mentally, just awful. And it was everybody. If you look at the numbers, okay, because it's not like somebody had 7 turnovers like Recksteiner the other night or whoever else did recently in this conference. It's become a pandemic, right? Or an epidemic, I guess would be a better term for it. But Gibbs Lawhorn 3, Hamilton 2, Fleming 2, Steffen 3, Green 2, Brown 2. I don't know. I guess, Hamilton did what he always does. He fouled out with 5 fouls. The good thing is Steffen only had 1 foul in 3 minutes. I guess that's just because he decided not to play any defense tonight, period. But really a gutless effort by the Rebels. Again, I kind of tuned it out because the Nevada game was getting really good. And it was 84-49. So UNLV really kind of poured it on. The only intrigue really that I said at halftime was, were the Rebels going to get a 3? Because they didn't make one the first half. And they didn't make one the first 7 minutes of the second half. I was starting to get really excited here. I really wanted to see how they would play the last 7-8 minutes of the game had they not made a 3, because I wanted to I can't say I wanted to see it. I was curious to see if it would turn into a circus and if they would make a mockery of the game by just trying to keep this streak alive. I appreciate the streak. I think it's great that they have it, all of that jazz. But, when you kind of do that stuff at the cost of playing a game, I think it becomes kind of foolishness. But it didn't get to that. Al Green made one and whatever. But disgusting effort. All right. They played hard on Saturday. They just aren't as good as San Diego State. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. They played hard and they came up short. All right. They did not play hard tonight. Honestly, this would have been a battle against Air Force tonight. And they definitely would have lost to San Jose State. And certainly everybody else in the conference, they would have gotten beat by. I'm curious how it would have gone against Air Force tonight. If they play at Air Force, because I believe they already played Air Force at home. If they go to Air Force and they show up like this, they will lose. Now, this may be one of those deals where they don't want to lose the Air Force because they'll be a laughing stock. And so maybe they show up and play because they are more talented. But who knows? Who knows with this team? Complete collapse by UNLV. Look, so let's focus on the Lobos a little bit because they obviously deserve their flowers. They shut UNLV down. Okay, good defense. Hall, what did Hall finish with? Because again, the stats got away from me. It's crazy. He was 7 for 11. I thought he was quiet early on. Only distributed the minutes pretty even. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys between 20 and 27 minutes, and then Rock with 18. So that's really 8 guys. I'm surprised Miller got 26 minutes. He just doesn't do a lot for me. He didn't have any turnovers. He shot 2 of 5 and 1 for 2. So that's not horrible. I think there's other guys that could take those minutes. Albury was solid, 5 assists. He did have 3 turnovers. Hall had 3 turnovers too. 10 of 24 from 3. You'll take that. Bouillon, 18 and 11. He could have gone for more. They just got away from him a little bit. And obviously he didn't play as much minute. He only 22 minutes then. So you're not going to pile the points on at that point. Chol, not really a factor much. Hop did his thing. And Tenet, solid game, of course, too. But this was you win by they won by 28. I'll count this as a 30-plus point win on the road after I'll call it a rivalry game against Nevada, a game that always has a lot of emotion involved in it. This is a great job right here. Okay, you go on the road, you get a good win. Any win on the road in this conference is a good win. You come out and you do it like this, and you get some of your guys some extra rest in the second half. You got a few days now to just kind of chill out before your game against San Jose on Saturday. I hate to say this to Richard fans, but this is one area where I certainly trust Olin more than Patino, and that's in having his guys ready to play against an inferior opponent, okay? Doesn't mean that they will never lose to a bad team, right? But I trust Olin more than Richard to have his guys ready to go against an inferior opponent, okay? It's not, let's just leave it at that. Okay. So I don't really know. Let me clean up some of the comments on New Mexico here. Lobos proving they belong in the conversation, the best team in the league, likely a 3-way tie by the end of this week. Could be. We'll have to see what happens. I don't know who. Because San Diego State plays at Utah State. Yeah, obviously, like the Aggies will be a favorite there. Certainly, it could be a 3-way tie. In that instance, then, I'd have to think about who would have played who and who would not have played who. New Mexico would have 3 games left against those other teams, and I guess Utah State would too. San Diego State would only have 2. They may have the leg up. Again, I still think New Mexico is at a slight disadvantage, and so is Utah State because of their extra losses. The UNM lost to Boise, and the Utah State lost to UNLV. They are, until San Diego State loses a game like tomorrow. If San Diego State were to lose to a Colorado State or a Wyoming or a Nevada or somebody that's not in the top 3, then that would cancel out the losses of New Mexico and Utah State, if that makes sense. I understand in the standings at this point, they're even all that stuff, right? But that's okay. That's my feeling on that. You can disagree, and it's fine. You still got half the conference schedule to play out, okay? Pather needs to be canned. I don't know. He's doing what everybody else in UNLV does. That every other coach that's been there since Tark, pretty much. They're up and down. They win games they shouldn't. They lose games they shouldn't. They don't show up sometimes. They have talent. They frustrate people. It just is what it is. Yeah, exactly. It's how, Larry, that's how the UNLV program rolls. We're not surprised. It's just kind of puzzling to watch it play out. Like tomorrow, we're going to be like, or on Friday when we break down the weekend's games, we're going to be like, oh yeah, they didn't show up on Saturday. What did we expect out of UNLV? They didn't show up, right? Let's see. What else? Is there anything else in here before I hit the late game here? San Jose out. Nobody got that one already. Yeah. Okay, so the last game then obviously was the first game on the card. Close game at the half, 36-33 at the half. Boise led, and it was one of those things where San Jose, it's like when you're a fan of one of the teams, we saw it against Utah State, we saw it against San Diego State, right? It's got to frustrate the heck out of you when you see the Spartans come out and just fire these shots in. You feel you should be up by 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and you're only up by 2, 3, or 4 points, right? But then that's why I say these games are 40 minutes. Over the course of 40 minutes, the water finds its level, right? So a team that's shooting out their rear end, they'll find their level, okay? And that's what happened tonight. They didn't even get to, I don't think, 30 points in the second half, maybe 25 points, right? But the other thing too, as I will put the stats up for a minute, is that the rebounding. Let's see, the rebounding for the game ended up 39-20, and in the first half. Can I split this by half? I don't know if I can. I don't know. But in the first half, I think it was like very, very tight were the rebounding stats in the first half. So that the Broncos did a very good job of kind of enforcing their imposing their physicality and their athleticism over the course of 40 minutes. I mean, again, you look at Miles' crew. He did get Garland back for the second game in a row. Didn't really discuss their game on Saturday against Wyoming, but Garland was back there. He played 6-7 guys tonight. Okay, Overstreet was big in the first half with 7 rebounds. Didn't do much in the second half. Nobody really did. For Boise, good job, good balance. Look at Leon getting everybody minutes of 5 starters. All played between 20 and 24. Same with Nato off the bench. 4 rebounds, 5 assists for Nato, 9 points. What else do we have on a stat sheet? Fielders, 16 and 8. Again, they did a nice job attack. Look at the numbers here: 41 bench points and 56 points in the paint. So that's one of those excellent job where I thought I had the stats on the screen. I didn't. I apologize. I was looking at them. When you only shoot 16 threes, good job. 5 out of 16 took 56 shots, only 16 are threes. That's barely 30. I don't even think it's 30% of your shots are threes. We've seen games before this year where the Broncos were over 50% in that regard. And it's easy to do when you're not being guarded as tightly like they weren't tonight for stretches. But instead, they attacked the rim, they drove, they used their strength. And as a result, you score 89 points, 53-25 in the second half. So that's pretty impressive. Now, again, as I said earlier, they feasted on the bottom half here. Their last 4 wins are against Wyoming, CSU, Air Force, and San Jose. Okay, clearly the bottom 2, and then maybe 4 of the bottom 5 or 6. I mean, it's hard to argue that, right? Doesn't mean they're bad, but they're not in the top 6. Okay, I guess 7 through 12. There's a clear upper and bottom half right now, I think, right? But anyway, they won 4 in a row, and they're playing better basketball, okay? Nobody should have doubted that would happen with a Leon team. Anybody who thought the sky was falling and they were going to finish 5-15 in a conference when they started 1-5 doesn't know what they're talking about with Leon Rice and his history, okay? Unless this team completely was going to quit on him, and that was unlikely to say the least, right? So give them credit, and now the schedule is going to firm up a little bit, right? Let me go through this here a little bit. Can UNLV at Nevada, can both teams lose? I don't know. I doubt it. I'm sure UNLV will actually probably bring their A. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. In the old days, they would bring their A effort. I don't know that any of these guys really care. They don't feel any semblance of a rivalry between themselves and Nevada, right? They've been on campus there for 6 months at most. I don't know that they care and consider a rivalry. Oh, UNLV Nevada's on Friday night. Thank you, Timothy. Appreciate that. Okay. I'll offer the Noodles luck up again. Well, yeah, of course he was fouled, Nick, but it's not, you don't call the foul. Yes. Yeah. She refs in WNBA. Not the first controversial call. Yeah. Thank you, D. Hate GCU. Yeah, and that's what I appreciate. Somebody who can be objective, because most people that would say they hate GCU would say it's a foul. But yeah, you don't call that foul there. Did the hand contact the shot trajectory? You obviously call it. Yeah, it probably did, Jer, right? You said if it would ever again, it probably did. But I'm just telling you that you don't see that called a lot, right? Because he didn't run through the body and knock the guy to the ground, which makes it easier. That's one of those where more times than not, and I think anybody who's watched a lot of college basketball would agree with this, you see the losing team where the shot gets blocked and the hand gets nicked, tipped, or whatever, argue at the officials looking, say foul, 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 and they don't call it, right? I'm sure everybody that's in here right now can picture that 20 times. I can picture it 620 times. It happens every week in college basketball, looking around at the ref after the horn, and they don't call it because you don't call it in that spot, right? Here's a Lope fan, and I appreciate this perspective. Refs didn't cost us the game. We had a chance, didn't execute, made mental mistakes. Credit to Nevada, seized the opportunity. Very much, Han, appreciate that sentiment because it's true. I say this all the time. I said it last week after the San Diego State game when the fans were irate that they handed GCU that game. That's one play in a game of 150 possessions, okay? And yes, I'm sure the Aztecs, just like the Lopes tonight, would like to have that call not been made. Certainly, okay? But it was made. And so then you look like Davis last week missing the front end. You look at Henley missing a free throw or any of the other 30 plays that happened over the course of a game that impacted the scoreline, right? Is the truth of the matter, okay? I don't know, somebody about point shaving. I don't think we had any point shavers in here. Okay, yeah, San Diego State has 3 games left with New Mexico and Utah State left. They do, but that's the same for that. I was saying after Saturday, Timothy, after Saturday, because they are a game up. So if they lose on Saturday to tie them with those 2 teams, they would only have 2 left. Okay, that's the fact. Okay, okay. The stat website is Stat Broadcast. Okay, Stat Broadcast. You can get pretty much anything on there. All right, Stat Broadcast. All right, so I think that kind of wraps up the Boise game. We'll see where what they do moving forward here because again, set aside the postseason aspirations. They're playing good basketball, and they're just going to do what they can do from here on out. Maybe that's what Leon's message has been. Look, forget about the pressure of trying. Once they lost that catastrophe on opening night against Hawaii Pacific, I think that they probably felt like they had to play perfect. They look great in some instances. Games against Duquesne, who's been formidable in A-10 play, clearly at Butler, the St. Mary's game, some other games, the games in Maui, they didn't look poorly in. They just couldn't get over the line, right? But once they lost a couple of these games here and their at-large bubble burst, maybe it just relieved a little bit of the pressure, okay? Because, again, they could have won these games and not look good doing it. But this is what Leon's done over the last few years when metrics and margin of victory has mattered. He steps on the gas, and his teams dominate inferior opponents. And he did it Saturday. He did it tonight. They did it somewhere else Wyoming, right? And so this is, again, not for at-large purposes. For confidence purposes, I agree, Paul, that UNLV plus minus is outrageous. Is to get yourself playing better basketball for the end of the season. Because, again, look, I'm not saying they have a chance at an at-large, but 12 months ago, nobody thought CSU did either at this point. Okay, and they won every game the rest of the season. I mean, they won the conference tournament to get in, but had they not, they had a chance anyway. Okay, now Boise's probably too deep into the ditch to get out at this point, but they're going to try to win every game because that's what they signed up for. They're competitors. Leon's a competitor. The players are competitors. Okay, so let's see what they can do here moving forward. All right, San Jose, I'm glad they got guys back. They just they can't do it for 40 minutes. They're still missing 2 guys, and if they have that, makes them a little more formidable. But they're just don't have the top end talent. So okay, what else do I have in here? UNLV had not. Yeah, the passes. That's what I mean. And because what it was, Timothy, is it wasn't like a man defense. And so UNLV, New Mexico, and I think we saw it in some of the other games today too. Boise actually did it in the first half. When a team overplays you out front, the only way to burn them is to go back door. Okay. When you watch that stuff happen at the youth level and the guy's being guarded, I can't do it here because I'm not going to move off camera, but the guy keeps shifting and shifting back out toward the half court line. Right. And the defender goes with him. Well, then before you know it, you're all the way out at half court. So obviously you go back door. And if it's a straight man, you can get layups off of that. And Boise did in the first half tonight. If you guys watched any of that, right? Well, you can't do that against a zone or a switching man or some type of combo that Olin was running tonight because there's a guy there. And UNLV, they can't process it. They weren't told that. They didn't care. Some combination of that. And yes, they threw that away countless times. The other thing I want to mention, Matt Cox in here on Saturday night said he thinks that Pastner's switching defenses and some of his in-game stuff works sometimes. That stuff's not going to work against Olin, all right? You don't get much sharper on the sidelines than Olin. Just because he's not at a Power 4 school doesn't mean he's not one of the best X and O guys in the country, okay? That doesn't mean that, right? And so Pastner can get away with that stuff sometimes. Certainly wasn't going to get away with it tonight in terms of switching defenses and throwing teams off balance and reacting to stuff. Did not work tonight. Yeah, I don't know, Chris. I will say I'll give them credit because I did want to. I hate to say that I did want to criticize them for it because I don't want to criticize them for it, but I didn't know that they were, because you know what, Gibbs Lawhorn, he wasn't even like seeking out threes tonight. I started to think for a minute, just a minute, but I started to think for a minute that maybe they didn't even want to break it, that they were like making a concerted effort to not break it. Like Gibbs Lawhorn only shot 2 threes tonight. Like he normally will fire up way more than that. And I just didn't think that they took a whole lot. They were like 0 for 5 late in the first half. So obviously it matters to them when they made it. They were happy because by that point they were down 30 and the fans in the stands had nothing to do but care about that. And I wanted to criticize them for it, but I didn't think it was warranted tonight because I didn't think they played for it. I thought they actually played against it, which was weird. Yeah, for sure. Olin's game. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less. Olin's game plan was brilliant, right? No idea how to attack it. And their athleticism was rendered useless. I mean, that unfortunately for Lobo fans, you don't get another free win at the Pit this year against them because they don't come to the Pit this year. So that'll be unless they pull, and they'll have to. I don't know if it will be an upset. I guess we'll have to see who they play. They'll likely, barring something miraculous, they're going to be in either the 7-10 or 8-9 game. So that gives them a fair chance of matching up with New Mexico in the quarterfinals. Obviously long way away, but we'll see. That otherwise this will be the only matchup. Okay. Look, again, everywhere that I see, they're in that last 4 in, first 4 out. Okay. And I think that the conventional wisdom is if you can avoid the bad losses for the next 6 weeks, you'll be okay. And win a couple of win your home games. You beat San Diego State at home. You beat Utah State at home, and you don't lose any bad games. You should be okay. Now, 16-4 might be a stretch, but if you go 15-5, I think that would probably do all right. Okay. The Nebraska loss has obviously aged well. And we'll see what else happens down the road, but I wouldn't push it beyond 15-5. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. Olin, Patino. I don't want to get into that, but yeah. I don't know. Is Pastner a good coach or not? I don't know. Right. Like, look, you can't blame all of UNLV's problems over the last decade on Pastner. The guy's been there for 9 months, but he also has not really shown an ability to be much different than Kruger or Marvin Menzies or any of the other guys they've had in there, right? And he tailed off at both of his other jobs, Memphis and Georgia Tech. So I don't know. Like, I think he knows what he's doing, but that doesn't mean you're a good coach, right? I knew what I was doing, and I don't know that I was an okay coach. I didn't continue and become Eric Olin, right? So, but I knew what I was doing. It's not as easy as it sounds to get your message across to your guys and to instill it in them and hold them to it. So I didn't have that in my personality, right? It was easier for me to be, this sounds weird, but it was easier for me to be an assistant and be the bad guy, or not be the bad guy, but like point out the stuff without having to be the one to really kind of rein them in and then hold them accountable when they didn't stick to the game plan. I was good at pointing the stuff out and adjusting. And maybe that's what Pastner's role should be, right? Unfortunately, he rose through the ranks so fast, he never really played the assistant role, maybe for a couple years, but he was so young into it that he got these jobs so quick, he never had to be an assistant. Then when he got fired, he went and did media, and now it's like, well, he's not going to be an assistant. He'll either do media or he'll be a head coach, and maybe he's more suited for an assistant coach role. That's probably what I was, to be honest. As much as I was kind of a control freak, it is what it is. So I don't know. Okay, a couple more things here. We're at almost an hour, 2:00. I do have the benefit because we got buried with a foot of, was snow, and then it turned into ice. So I'm like on Lake Placid here. And so I don't have to drive into school. I can sleep and teach virtually, one of these funny things of teaching virtually. So I get a little bit of rest tomorrow. So maybe I'll stay here till like 3:30. Yeah, I know, Chris. I mean, I think their fans know that, but their fans don't expect to make the Final Four and be on Sports Illustrated for winning national championships, but they haven't been in the NCAA tournament in a decade, and they're not even close. Like Syracuse, Boise, Virginia Tech, a lot of these teams are on a bubble 8 out of 10 years, UNLV's not even, they're on like the CBI bubble. They're not even close. That's all they want. They want like one opportunity to play meaningful games at the end of February and early March where people can get invested, maybe bring a little more attention and people to the Thomas and Mack, and people be like, oh, look, we got a good product here, and have a chance to make the tournament, have the games in the Mountain West Conference tournament be meaningful. They don't even get that anymore. They're not even close. And that's where the frustration lies. And I get that. I think anybody who believes that they should be where they were in 1991 needs a talking to. But I don't think that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, I don't know. Headed to GCU this week. Yeah, from what they say, Mad Dog, on TV and whatever, I think you'll be in for a pretty good atmosphere. That's my thought here. Obviously, I've never been there. I don't know if anybody in here has, but I think you're going to get an experience that you've never seen before. Yes. Their student section is rabid. Yeah, it's mostly students from what I've seen, so you should enjoy that. I don't know. Is the East Coast better overall in terms of what? I don't know. In terms of what? In terms of living? I don't know. Certainly not for staying up late for Mountain West games. But, I agree with this one too here, Pac fan. That the rivalry means more to Nevada than UNLV. So even back in the year 2016, for example, when UNLV had a legit team and guys stayed for 3 years and you could develop a rivalry, even then it meant more to Nevada because they were kind of usually in the shadow of UNLV. But now there's no allegiance to these programs. And that goes for a lot of rivalries for in this NIL age when you're only there for a year. So I do get that. And I did see this one, Vargs, where Pastor complained about the lack of fan support. I mean, look, what do I say to that? Like, listen, he shouldn't, he knew what he signed up for, right? I mean, didn't they tell him and show him that the thing is like a third of capacity for their home games? Like, come on. He didn't expect them to be full, did he? Anybody who pays, he was in media the last couple of years, for crying out loud. He had to know nobody goes to their games, right? And just because he's animated on the sidelines and puts on a show sometimes himself, doesn't mean people are going to come and watch you. Don't lose at home to Montana, and don't lose at home to Tennessee State. And there's a third other one in there. I lost track of at this point. Don't lose at home to these quad 4 opponents. Be somewhat in the mix of this and that, and you'll get that, right? So, that's not really what you want to do there. I agree, Steve. Don't get in the way. Let them play. Look at that, BJ. I did not know that, BJ. 27 spots. That's a Leon Rice special, man. I'll tell you what, people who imbibe in games of chance probably buy some extra things to eat or drink or play with based on that knowledge, because Leon has done that for years. Okay, taking advantage in situations like this. I had no idea they were up to 54. That is absolutely wild that they were 54. I have kind of trailed off in the last week or two in checking daily on the net and the KenPom. I don't really know why. Part of it the last week is I haven't been feeling super, but I just, with the games and this and that, whatever. But that's wild that they're up to 54. And, it's crazy. I don't know, like, what is that? Oh, well, GCU lost the game. I was curious because had GCU won this game, they would have probably been nearing up to the at-large mix too, because that would have been a really good quad, possibly one for the time being road win. Didn't come to be, obviously, as we know, if you stayed up and watched and you're watching live. But anyway, let's see what else. You'll be at the game. Looking for, hope you enjoy it, Mad Dog. It is good for the conference, Steve. Absolutely, that's what they're up to. I had zero idea. So that gives you, because you think about it, and like Nevada and GCU have been lagging 20 spots-ish behind the 3 top guns. And so with Boise making a massive move up there, that kind of gives you 4, even though their at-large profile isn't where the other 3 are. It keeps them kind of around there for quad purposes, strength of schedule purposes, all of that stuff, right? So that's good. And let's see, Friday, huge opportunity. Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking about. That is, so wow, what a Friday doubleheader. I forgot all about that. I'll have to check the times. Nevada UNLV and Boise GCU on Friday, huge doubleheader. That's right. So the Saturday, Utah State, San Diego State game is an early tip, I think, on Big Boy CBS. And then the rest of the card, no offense, Louisville fans, isn't much to sneeze at. I know the border war is in there too, but there's not much, most of the good stuff is earlier in the weekend, either Friday night or early on Saturday. So pretty good doubleheader there. Although I say that, and you could get an effort like you got tonight out of UNLV, and then it's not worth watching in the second half. But interesting to watch there. As Han just said, huge opportunity for Boise. And if Grand Canyon shows up not sharp, they're in for it on Friday night. I'm telling you that right now. I would guess, and maybe BJ can correct me on this, I would guess that Boise does not fly home. Although maybe they do. I don't know. I would think that they would fly right from San Jose down to Phoenix. Maybe BJ will correct me if I'm wrong there. And then that kind of sets them up in a position where it negates any travel. Obviously, the fans will try to make an impact on the game. Okay. But yes, certainly, and for standings purposes, because you win that one and then it cancels out your home loss to them, right? And then I guess at that point, GCU would have 4 and you would have 5. As a Boise fan, you would just be 1 game behind Grand Canyon. And just like that, things would kind of flip. So yeah, it is crazy, Jazz, to see that this UNLV team beat Utah State. It's absolutely mind-boggling to think that that's the same team, right? I mean, it's just bizarre. Yeah, I don't blame you, Jerry. You don't want them coming to the pit. Yeah, you're right. It is risky. Caleb is a GCU fan. He says, went from winning the season without 2 starters at Nevada to the most painful loss in a Drew era. Welcome to the Mountain West. Yeah, it's funny how stuff changes just on a fingertip, right? Like, Henley could probably close his eyes like Jordan did that one time and shoot those 2 free throws and make one of them, right? And if he would step up 10 times to shoot 2 free throws, he probably makes 1 out of 2, 9 out of 10 times, and then the game's over. And as a matter of fact, I had the phone recording. I almost didn't, because I think, did they call timeout in between the 2 free throws after he missed the first one? I almost didn't record, and it didn't matter anyway because they fouled, so I had to re-record. But I almost didn't, because I was like, he's going to make one of these 2 anyway, and it's going to be over. I cannot believe he missed both. That's what happens when the pressure gets to you. It's not like they were at GCU here or the Spectrum with a massive fan section behind them. I mean, I guess they were at them a little bit, but man, a 5th year, maybe even a 6th year senior getting caught up in a moment like that and missing both is like wowzers, right? Han says that it will be a good crowd. Grab a taco. Okay. They're airborne for Phoenix right now. BJ says that's what you had to figure, right? That made the most sense. That was good. That was pretty fortuitous scheduling for the Broncos that it worked out like that. I mean, I guess the conference probably did that, knowing that. Although I don't know when the TV picks the games, right? The games are usually slotted for Tuesday and Saturday, and then the conference moves some games to Wednesday and some to Friday. But I guess they kind of have to do that together, because so it just worked out for them to be able to fly down from San Jose to Phoenix. So that worked out. Boise's in Phoenix tonight. Somebody else already said that. So very good for them. They will get to Phoenix before GCU. Yes, they will. And you have to figure that gives them a slight bit of an advantage. Han also says that Moore will be questionable for Friday. Caleb Shaw more than likely out. That's kind of what I said 45 minutes ago. We'll see. I mean, obviously, you have to see how the next 48 hours go for Moore. He's going to want to give it a go. If he can't, you will see the same lineup then tonight. And what do we see tonight? They wore down a little bit at the end. Now, Boise has similar depth to Nevada. You're playing on the road, a little bit of altitude, right? So maybe that holds you back a little bit, but I don't think too much. So yeah, that's really interesting. Maybe I'll add a little bit to that one tomorrow night after the games. GCU is such a different team at home, 100%. Paul says if the Aztecs can win just 1 on the road at Utah State or to Pitt, they look good to win the conference. 100%. Yes, without a doubt. Because here's the thing, Paul. If they win one of those 2 at Utah State or at the Pitt, that means they lose one of those. And then let's just figure they lose 1 at home. Then you're sitting at 17-3. And do they lose another one on the road and finish 16-4? maybe, but they have the tiebreaker over one of those two teams, and they probably win the conference. So who knows? We got half the schedule yet to play out. Quickly on tomorrow, we'll go 5 minutes on tomorrow. They're fair games, right? But if Wyoming is without Meyer, and I did not look at the injury report tonight, I'll look tomorrow, and then it will be updated a little bit before tip-off. But if Meyer is out tomorrow, Wyoming has a less than 5% chance of winning. I was going to say less than 10, but that's being generous. Probably less than 5 if Meyer is out. He was out on Saturday, and they struggled to put away San Jose at home. Now they're going to Utah State. Now, we've obviously seen Utah State show up not super, as BJ comes with the TV stuff here. Oh, wait, that was a different one. San Diego State has lost a lot of games in Boise. Yeah, sure, they could lose in Boise, no doubt about it. And Boise's trending up, so I shouldn't overlook that one. There's no doubt about it. So the TV for Friday, 7 Mountain, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain, Boise on FS1, and then an hour later on CBS. So we'll get an hour first. You know what that means. 7:15 Mountain for Boise and 8:15 Mountain for Nevada, UNLV. So 9:15 Eastern, 10:15 Eastern. So either way, you'll get an hour of the Boise game for solo. Then you'll have to kind of split them or really focus on the Boise game, because I would anticipate that being close throughout the second half, and kind of watch the Nevada game on your second screen until that one's over. And then your Nevada game, you can watch the second half if it's even close at that point. But yeah, Mike, the bench, we pointed out 41-2 in terms of bench points. Yeah, no doubt about it. So anyway, if Meyer's out, there's just not enough offensive punch. They're still missing Belich and Harris. Those are guys that are role guys and glue guys. Harris has more potential to go off for offense, even though Belich averages a point more per game. Belich is never going to go off for 15 in a game. Harris could. Belich, I don't know that he's going to come back from what I've heard. Harris may. But again, those are guys that are replaceable with what Sundance has. Meyer is not. If you don't have Meyer, you don't have a creator. That's part of what Nevada struggled with tonight. And I said it way back 55 minutes ago. They couldn't get open shots. They have nobody that can really create space and get people open shots. And Wyoming, they struggle. Walker can do that a little bit, but beyond that, no way. And if Meyer's out, you're looking at them hoisting up shots from deep. You're looking at them trying to run in a way that's not going to work. Maybe does Calhoun allow them to run, and then it kind of plays into Wyoming's hands? Does he press? Who knows? You never know what you're going to get from Calhoun and his guys defensively, to be honest, right? But I like if Calhoun's smart, he just sits back in a half court tomorrow and makes Wyoming beat him in a half court, because they cannot do that for 40 minutes against a team with better talent, which is what Utah State is. They might hang around for a little bit, but they won't be able to win the game, especially without Meyer. Okay. Now, if he's in, obviously you still favor the Aggies, but they had the extra day off because they played Friday. Wow, that's odd scheduling. Friday home, or no, they were at CSU. I'm sorry. Yes, that was at CSU. So they were at CSU Friday. So they had the extra day off. Now they're home. So Wyoming traveling off of a home win. But, the Spectrum will be fired up. Do you get the really good Aggies that wants to put a beat down on somebody, or do you just want to go through the motions and win the game by 10? We'll say. The late game then is the Aztecs against CSU. Interesting game. I was surprised that I saw the spread was only like 7. I think maybe I'm wrong about that. I think Utah State was like 12 or 13. That one baffled me a little bit. Han, here's a good question. What's the record you project necessary to get a 4 seed or better? 13-7, 14-6. Look, if you count the top 3 teams, I think most people would agree as San Diego State, Utah State, New Mexico, in whatever order you prefer. And you look at a couple, at a 16-4, maybe 2 15-5, something like that, right? Yeah, you're probably looking at, I think 14-6 would definitely get you the 4 seed. I think 13-7 might, depending on tiebreakers. Teams like Boise, CSU, they will have a say in that because they'll be able to beat some of these teams. But yeah, that's a good question. I think 14-6 should definitely get you the 4 seed. 13-7, and you're probably playing with tiebreakers, and depending on what some of the other teams do. So Nevada's at Boise next Tuesday, and then Fresno at home next Saturday. I mean, yeah, the Boise game is going to be tough for them, right? They beat Boise at home pretty good. Said it many times. I said it last weekend, and I said it here. Forget about the opponents, and that's to BJ's message a little bit ago that I showed 10 minutes ago. They didn't move up 27 points in Ken Palm because they won. Because they beat Air Force and San Jose State. They moved up because they were efficient in how they did it. We've seen plenty of teams in this conference and in other conferences, if you pay attention, go through the motions and beat teams and not move up. They moved up because they beat these teams efficiently on offense and on defense. And that's what you got to do. Like it or not, that's the way the game is played these days. The metric game, the analytics game, all this stuff that the cool kids want to do, right? It's not my stuff. I don't like that analytics, but that's how it rolls, all right? Chris, assuming all the current coaches remain in place for the new Mountain West next year, where does Sundance rank in the coaching hierarchy? Well, you have to put, it's funny because my first instinct is to say you have to put Olin first, and then Alford too, which is crazy to say because Alford's won a lot of championships, plenty more championships, and been in the NCAA tournament with several teams. I think he's made the Sweet 16 with several teams, or at least won a game with several teams. And Olin hasn't won a tournament game yet. Now his team wasn't eligible, but that's not what we're basing it on here. But I'm not just me, but I'm very impressed, and so are many people, with Olin. Drew has impressed me in the last few weeks because early in the season, I was pretty critical of GCU. Now, Moore has played better. Evans has come on, didn't do much tonight. But I will give credit to Drew and his staff for righting the ship and getting them to look better. Whether he's tweaking stuff at practice or pushing better buttons during the game, tweaking things, whatever they're doing, it's working much better than it did in the non-con. And so Sundance, I mean, listen, we love Sundance. A lot of us do, because he's infectious. He gets a lot. He gets stuff out of not a lot. All right, is what I'm trying to say. Probably Air Force aside, I mean San Jose too, but one of the more difficult jobs on the West Coast, or west of like the central time zone, right? I won't say west of Mississippi, but west of like Kansas, right? One of the tougher jobs. Certainly in any of the conferences worth a damn. Mountain West, West Coast, Big West. It's very, very tough, okay? And to get players, to get money, and he finds players. And he seems to do a good job of getting them wanting to play for him. Now, it hasn't sustained through 2 years yet in terms of on-court success winning games. So that's the next step. They did it in non-con this year, but again, it was a weak schedule. Everybody knew that, and it hasn't really played out. They've lost a couple games in conference that I think he would have liked to have, or would have hoped that he had a chance to win, and they didn't. And that's disappointing. That's the only thing you can say about it. It's disappointing, right? So I don't know. Gotta see. I think we'll wait and see how it goes next year. Fresno played inspired at home, impressed with Gorey. Yeah, that Jeff Grammer, when he was on last Friday, really raved about Gorey. He put up big numbers. He's a talented guy. Unfortunately, I don't envision him back in a Fresno uniform next year. Mike, where does Nevada finish in the standings? My guess last week was 5th. Now the fact that they beat GCU and the fact that they don't go to GCU, they're basically 2 games up on GCU right now. even though they're tied. They're a game up, right? And so if they finish tied, they win. They finish ahead of them. Scheduling wise, aside from the fact that they don't go to GCU, the remaining schedule probably slightly favors GCU. As far as how the teams are playing, I slightly lean GCU as well. I know it didn't finish their way tonight, but for 39 minutes and 55 seconds, they look like the better team. Okay. And so over the course of the last 6 weeks, I tend to want to give them the slight benefit of the doubt over Nevada here. I don't know. Just my thought. I'm not down on Nevada. I'm just I like what I see out of GCU. Let's go Lobos. Sundance number 1 in our hearts for many. Yep. Big fan here. Appreciate him coming on. I got so wrapped up in the things. I had these banners here to put on when I was talking about the games, because sometimes I just ramble on and people come in and they don't know what game we're talking about. I put all these together. So here you go. If you were curious, I missed one. Did I miss one? Which game did I forget? New Mexico? I don't know. I have so many on here from old games, and I did not I forgot to put these on tonight. Anyway, you know what that was all about. Well, I'll have to erase some of these and clean it up so it's not a problem. Anyway, okay. So, I mean, look, back, I didn't really touch on a San Diego State game. I mean, listen, they're at home tomorrow. They'll be ready to play, right? They have an extra day. CSU 2 extra days. I mean, it feels like forever since the Rams have played, but I don't think they have much success winning in Viejas. It's going to be incredibly difficult for them to do that. Not to mention the fact that they're coming off a deflating loss on Friday when they had that game won for a good portion of the game too. Remember, that was a night we talked really about how they kind of literally gave the game away to Utah State with all their turnovers. Utah State earned the win. They played well, but CSU really gave it away. That wears on you like mentally, right? And so it's like, man, how do we come back from that? Now we got to go play at San Diego State. They're going to get after us with their pressure. Forget about whether Guath is in a lineup or not. Doesn't really matter. The other guys Bird looked like an all-conference guy on Saturday after looking horrible the game before. So which Bird are you going to get? But there's enough other guys in the lineup. The freshmen are playing well. The Goreville has bounced back. He's been up and down. Compton, just plenty of guys. This is a game where Heidi will play well, I think, because he's not dwarfed by athleticism. Okay. Schedule, second half of conference play schedule for the Lopes is more favorable. I knew that. Yeah. 2 Air Force games. Yeah. So look at that right there. Okay. So the last 10 games for Grand Canyon, I hate to say 5-0, but 2 Air Force games, San Jose State, Fresno, and Wyoming at home. Does anybody in here right now? I don't know, how many people we got? 20,000 people in here, maybe. Minus a few. But honestly, does anybody in here right now think they're going to lose any of those 5 games? Okay. If you do, I got some property to sell you. Send me a message, because I don't know how they lose any of those 5 games. Right. And so then obviously some of the other remaining 5 are going to be difficult. There's no doubt about it, but we've seen this team can beat anybody and play well anywhere. So yeah, they'll have a great chance to finish anywhere really in the conference. Okay. Anyway, like I don't see how the Rams bounce back with an A effort on the road. Tough place to play. Good team, more talented team than you. You just lost the way you lost. It's going to be tough to bounce back and win. Maybe keep it close for a while, but are you going to get free looks offensively against a pretty athletic defense? I don't know. I mean, one of the things that San Diego State makes teams do is shoot a lot of threes because you can't penetrate. That kind of plays into the Rams' hands. You don't really want to penetrate, although it helps to be able to drive and kick to an open shooter. But if you're forced to shoot threes, could be a worse game plan if you're CSU, because you make a lot of threes. So that's not the end of the world. But I still think they're up against it tomorrow. So I'd be surprised if I come on here late and we have an upset in our 2 games. But again, this is why we love the conference, because who knows what we're going to find. I could have been done with this 40 minutes ago had that ridiculousness not happened at Lawler. But here we are. It's 2:30. So I'm going to wrap it up. Sun Cruiser along for the ride. Appreciate them as always. Appreciate all of you guys being here. I don't think I said this at the top. I was so wrapped up in what I had just watched. But at Mountain West BNN, please go subscribe. Had plenty of subscribers over the last few days. Obviously, over the weekend, it slows down once I kind of fade away and don't do a show on Sunday, don't do a show on Monday. Now we're back. Good show here. Good audience, good participation. I should have plugged this in the middle of the show. I'll have to remember to do that tomorrow. I always plan on taking notes during the games, but there's too many things going on. I'm trying to watch 3 screens and tweet this and record this, and I forget to do it. So at Mountain West BNN, subscribe. Remember, free. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. That word subscribe is intimidating. I've heard people say, oh, I have to pay to subscribe. No, those are the newspapers that people want you to subscribe to, okay? I appreciate that, Paul. Paul says, great show. Appreciate that, Paul. Appreciate you guys being here at this point. And holy macro. So, Han, you have 2 games left with UNLV too. So on top of those 5 games that we mentioned a minute ago, 2 more games with UNLV. Like, you can't find a better schedule than that for 7 of your last 11 conference games, or 12. I don't know. They might have missed a game, so they might have 12 to play. Is your record 5-3 in the conference right now, Han, before we get out of here? Or Lopes 5-3 in conference, or are they 6-3? If they're 6-3 and they only have 11 games left, and 7 of those games are against those teams at the bottom, 6-3. That is remarkable. 6-3 with 7 games that they're not freebies, right? Like, going to UNLV isn't going to be a freebie. UNLV at home might not be a freebie, but man, oh man, that is wild, because I can't believe that is their remaining schedule. That's absolutely wild that they're sitting 6-3, and those are 7 of their remaining 11 games. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure 4 of the other 11 are going to be difficult starting on Friday. But if they win Friday, look out. This team could finish 16-4. So they have at San Diego State, at Utah State, and at home against New Mexico. Well, if they win Friday against Boise, okay, they could beat the Lobos at home. I'm not saying they will. It'll be a tough game. They could certainly finish 15-5. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely could finish 15-5. May not, but they could. Okay. Anyway, all right. Can't believe I went for an hour and 20 minutes with only 3 games. But look, fantastic action. Again, as we said, we'll sleep in May, probably April. We'll sleep in April. Chris may be right. GCU Nevada may be a new big rivalry in the next Mountain West, in the new Mountain West, So appreciate Sun Cruiser. Appreciate all of you. Please subscribe to the show at Mountain West BNN. Tomorrow night, don't forget, I think it's a half hour earlier. I think it's a 10:30 start. I think it's not up for me, 10:30, 8:30 Mountain, 7:30 Pacific. And so whenever 15 minutes later than that, whenever that San Diego State, Colorado State game ends, I'll be in here. Probably not as long, but who knows what we'll find out tomorrow night. And that's why we love it. So appreciate you guys all being here. Hopefully we'll see you again another night at the Mountain West. Catch you guys on a flip. See ya.